morning and Jai Hind everyone. Welcome to today's podcast, Languages, Cultures and Journey. Here's the story of Sushant Kumar Mishra. Professor Sushant, from the Center of French Francophone Studies at JNU, is now professor and dean at Nalanda University, Bihar. His life is a kaleidoscope, from journalism to tourism and then to academics till date. Sushant sir knows Maithili, Bhojpuri, Hindi, English, French, Spanish, Portuguese, and has basic understanding in Latin. Good morning and Jai Hind Sir. Sunbeam School Sarnath welcomes you. I'm Adhya from class 8th and I'm going to take today's podcast.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Jai Hind.
So let's start with our questions.
Yes.
So please share your experience working with T.S. Eliot's poem, The Love Song of J. Alfred Prufrock.
Oh, yes. That is a very beautiful poem, definitely, by T.S. Eliot. It shows the human emotions, how it works, and what is love, and how we are attached to all those who are around us with the love that we have, because love is the guiding force in nature as well as in human society. So J. Alfred Prufrock is one such poem which is very close to my heart, because I understand how love and the loss of communication in love affect us almost on daily basis, because it is the loss of communication that is very important. And that poem is very prominently about this loss of communication in the context of love. And we have to address it very clearly, because you would have seen around you that those who are engaged in any kind of social service or helping your friends, actually, how do you do all these things? Because you love doing that, and you love all those for whom you are in service of some kind. That is why the J. Alfred Prufrock is a great message by a great Anglo-American poet, and relevant to our civilization also, to our culture also, because T.S. Eliot had a great influence from Indian culture. He was a great scholar of Indian philosophy, Indian literary theory, Indian Vedas, etc. He had read Indian Upanishads. So in that poem, he summarizes beautifully that desire of love, and yet the loss of communication in the context of love to all beings that surround us. That is my way of understanding as well as message. Yes, tell me.
I really appreciate your efforts, sir. What are your insights on T.S. Eliot's poem? I really appreciate.
That I really appreciate. Well, T.S. Eliot has a language which is very new for his period. And how come that language is new? That is very important for us. See, in one of his poems, he uses the word da as it is explained in our Upanishads. So he has a knowledge that encompasses cultures. He knows the Greek culture, he knows the Latin culture, he knows the Indian culture, he knows the Sanskrit culture, and all the texts, not all will be an exaggeration, but a lot of texts of Sanskrit, whether through Latin or through English translations, he has read them. It is so obvious in his reading and writing and in his thought. And at the same time, he takes cues from the French culture, from the European culture in general. He understands Italian. He many times quotes from Italian directly, and that to Old Italian. He takes expressions from French. He takes expressions from Germans. He takes the ideas from Greeks and Latins, antiquity, and then he quotes Upanishads. So you see, this kind of encompassing knowledge is very inspiring for our times, and we all should actually aspire towards it. It doesn't matter in which field we are, but in every field, that vision of T.S. Eliot matters a lot for us. This is an essential message that I get from the writings of T.S. Eliot, apart from the critical theory and all that, we can talk about it, but there are messages for our life that we should actually concentrate upon while reading T.S. Eliot.
Okay, sir. I liked how you broke that down. Mahabharata in France. Oh my god, this is such an epic. So please share your experience learning about Madeleine Biagdo's work on Mahabharata and French indological traditions.
Yes, yes. Madeleine Biardot is a very important Indologist. She has worked on India and she has translated various texts of India. Two prominent texts of India. One is Mahabharata, that we know as a storyline, which is the essential storyline of our culture, Indian culture. It is often said that what is not in Bharat is not in Mahabharat, and what is not in Mahabharat is not in Bharat. So it is that kind of quintessential representation of Indian mind. So one is Mahabharata, and the other text Madeleine Biardot has translated and presented to French scholars is a text by Bhartrihari called Vakyapadiyam. Both texts are very important, but Vakyapadiyam is a text of grammatical philosophy, grammar and philosophy. It goes in both. So that we may call it linguistic philosophy also. That is very important text, but that is meant for scholars. However, this Mahabharata is a story. You can narrate the story to a child. You can tell the story to an adult, and they all will understand and relate to it in their own ways. That is the beauty of great texts like Mahabharata. So Madeleine Biardot, when she presents it, I'm not saying that she translated it, but you can call it translation also. However, why I call it her presentation to the French people? Because she has taken care while presenting the text to the mind of the French people and how they can understand and how they will understand the text, how they can receive the text, what are the limitations, because they are ignorant of Indian culture. They don't know about Indian culture so well that they can actually perceive through the text. They can act, it becomes difficult for them to understand the text many times. So she explains some events. She gives a greater length than given in the original text. So there are many changes in presentation that she makes, which is perfectly fine for our tradition also. You can see in India also that whenever Mahabharata is presented, whether in teleserials or you have great artists like Pijan Bai and others, they narrate these texts to us. You can see in various theatrical presentations also the same text being presented. They all present it in their own way. And that is how the oral tradition of India continues, because we can relate to the audience. So in that way, Biardo has done a great job because she has presented the text in such a way that she has given the opportunity to the reader to relate with an Indian cultural text in their own ways. They are not from India, but they can correlate with an Indian cultural text in their own ways. And that is a very important contribution by Biardo.
I really like your perspective, sir. So, what are your ideas on how Mahabharata is viewed in France?
Well, Mahabharata has been well received in France for many reasons. Number one, that it is definitely a great cultural text with a very important message that every truth is only half truth. There is always the other side of the truth. Whatever we do, there is always a pros and cons. And those pros and cons are not always contrary to each other, but they complement also each other. So what is contrary is complementary, and what is complementary is also contrary. So there is a clash, and in that clash, there is a growth. Mahabharata is a story about it. So that is why in Mahabharata often you will find the notion of but. This is so, but this is also true, which may be different. So different perspectives being amalgamated in one text. That is the beauty of Mahabharata, and that gives a new way of understanding which French people, or in general, the European people, have tried to understand in the 20th century. So the reception of Mahabharata in that context has been very important. And in our culture, we have always understood, because in every relationship, there are different aspects. We all need to understand those different aspects. The same person we can love, we love our children. At the same time, we sometimes scold our children. But loving and scolding, apparently contradictory, but they sometimes complement also. We don't scold our children for scolding them, but for their good. Similarly, many
Yes.
times our children also get angry at us. They get angry at us for their affection that they have for us. It is not that they hate us, there is no hatred. But that momentary emotional outburst is simply for their love, what they expect from us. So it is the mutual expectation and the pitfalls and the problems in that mutual expectation. That is the song of Mahabharata, and the French culture very well, or internationally, different cultures have very well reverberated through this aspect of Mahabharata.
Quite interesting. Sir, as a student, I would like to know what are the connections and similarity between Greece and India. So, please share your
Yeah.
insights on connection between India and Greece as discussed in Centuries of Green Assign and Reason.
Yes, yes, very true. See, Greece and India, uh, you can see in two ways. Number one, the present Greece and India. Number two, the antiquity
Ji.
of Greece and India. The antiquity of Greece and India are very similar. And that too, why it becomes very important for us to look at them, putting them together, juxtaposing them together, is the thought of Europeans in about 16th, 17th century, when they were suddenly exposed to the Greek thought, which was different. They had a Christian thought, but the Christian mind received pre-Christian pagan thoughts, and they were great intellectual thoughts. Philosophers like Aristotle, Plato, and many others. Many others, they had thinkers who used to ask questions like, what is the ultimate reality in this world? So we have many such understanding of the world in Greek and in the Greek writings, whether you call it literature, there are literary writings, there is tragedy, there are plays written, there are philosophical speculations made, because our questions are always similar across the world. What is life? How life grows? Why are we here? When we die, where do we go? What is death? So many such fundamental questions that we have. And Greeks and Indians have often engaged in similar ways, perhaps because of the similarity in faith, the similarity in their stories, which we often call mythology in nowadays, but they are actually living stories. In India, we believe that Shiva exists. Similarly, the Greeks also believed that their God existed. From a Christian point of view, it becomes, or the European mind of 16th century, it becomes simply a story that is not to be accepted as truth. But every culture has stories which are apparently unscientific, but our mind does not operate through scientifically always. For example, we like the dish that my mother has given me today, or that my friend has brought today. Now, if you want to reason that why do I like it, it becomes very difficult to answer that question. It is simply our feeling, our emotion, and our desire to share for which we like the dish. And there are other taste buds which also get satiated. There is no reason for that except for the emotional bondage that we have. The same dish I may not like if I know that I'm getting it from a stranger. But the same dish I like because my friend has given it to me. Now, this kind of understanding of friendship, this kind of understanding of closeness, and a way to look at the world with its multiplicity. This was common between the Greeks and the Indians. So we never thought of monotheism, what they call monotheism. The Greeks also thought of always multiple truths, multiple realities, multiple ultimate realities. And it is in that context that Greece, the antiquity of Greece, antiquity of Greek and Roman mind and India, they are very close. And this was a discovery for Europeans in 16th, 17th century. And gradually, as they started understanding the world, India and Greek, these two thought systems have greatly influenced the European mind. And till date, they have been operating, they have been working on both these cultural, philosophical ideas coming from Greece as well as from India.
I would really like to note on this point, sir. So, what ideas do you have about the dialogue between civilizations of India and Greece?
Well, India and Greece, as I told you, that in one aspect they are very close. In the other, historically, if we see that they have been connected also. They have been connected for two reasons. Number one, as they evolved, uh, whether through land or through sea, people went from here to Greece and from Greece to India. You can see the famous example of the Alexander the Great coming till Afghanistan, close to
Yes,
India,
sir.
and some of his soldiers and others coming to India. And the other is the Indo-European people. We say that initially we had some people who lived in some area, which area we cannot say with certainty, but it is they who migrated from India to Greece because there is a cultural similarity, there is a linguistic similarity. If you compare the Sanskrit language or related languages in India, like Pali and Prakrit, the structure and sometimes vocabulary is very close to Old Greek. And sometimes we use it till date. Many times you will find the similarities. So this also shows the cultural and linguistic similarity. They become in 19th century an important research area, and it is this similarity that tells us that there has been a great historical connection. There should have been some people who preceded, and these two cultures have been descendants of that one group of people. So this is a historical connection, and down the lines, till date, you find India and Greece working very closely because many of our interests are very common. Greece is also dealing with a lot of coastal areas. India also has a large coastal area. So we have a lot of our, in contemporary times, strategic interests, political interests, they also correlate us.
Okay, sir. So, I would like to ask some questions about R.K. Narayan. So, please share your experience writing the foreword for the book on R.K. Narayan's novels.
Oh, yes, R.K. Narayan. See, that book was written by a great scholar from Delhi University. So when I was writing that, I had to revisit the English writings from Indians. And it really started in 19th century. But in the first half of 20th century, we had some great writers, R.K. Narayan being one of them, who started expressing themselves in English, first in English. Uh, though they use the expressions from Indian languages. You have many such beautiful expressions which they have actually translated or they have coined based on Indian languages, but they have used in their own English writing. R.K. Narayan is one of that. And that kind of linguistic fusion, nowadays we talk a lot about fusion music, but that kind of linguistic fusion of languages, we notice almost in the first half of 20th century in great writers like R.K. Narayan. And that is a very intriguing point for us. I can give you examples for, we often compare the feet of great people with lotus. So Charan Kamal, we say.
Yes,
So
sir.
he writes, he touched the lotus feet of his father. So that means he उसने अपने पिता के चरण कमल छुए. Now you see, in English, lotus feet makes no sense at all. But he touched the lotus feet of his father.
Father.
This kind of expression, it not only brings the linguistic joy, but also a cultural fusion. And cultures grow when they take elements from various cultures of the world. Nothing happens in isolation. And R.K. Narayan is a great example of that.
Yes, sir. Thank you for sharing. So, what are your insights on R.K. Narayan's writing style?
Writing style, yes, this is one style. I told you that the fusion, the amalgamation of various cultures, and then, of course, the use of language, English language, in such a way as Indians were speaking, as Indians were trying to evolve what is nowadays called the Indian English. So, R.K. Narayan is a brilliant example of that kind of creative writing, which brings English to Indian languages, we can say, and thus gives us a new kind of vocabulary, a new kind of structure that we continue till date.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Natya Shastra, oh my god, such a new topic. So, please share your experience working on language and communication studies in Bharatnatyam Shastra.
Oh, yes. Bharat Natya Shastra is a great text of dramaturgy, but it is uh, it uh, uh, it presents us various aspects of literary theory, of communications, of sociolinguistics, that how language is perceived in various societies, how language is used by various social groups. All these aspects have been dealt with by Bharat in his Natya Shastra. And you see, actually, dramaturgy is an art like that. In drama, you have to represent society, and society is never uh, one. There are always different aspects, different points of views, different ways of thinking, different ways of behaving, and all kinds of differences in food habits, in our clothing, etc. They all exist. So, in that situation, this is a text which is one of the foundational texts for the Indian culture. And for understanding all the Indian literary theory, we have to understand first the Natya Shastra. Now, in this situation, what happens? Natya Shastra becomes the essential text for literary communication and for day-to-day communication also, because whether in literature or in drama, we actually imitate our daily behavior. When you watch a drama nowadays, when you watch a movie, there are all kinds of characters. They represent various sections of the society. So it becomes a great study for communication also. So both language and communication, that is called Vachika Abhinay in Natya Shastra, and that has been dealt with in about 4 to 5 chapters, chapter 12 to chapter 16. So that is a very important, again, learning for us, because it understands the historical perspective of communication in various languages in Indian societies.
Okay, sir. So, what are your ideas on how language connects with dance in Bharatnatyam Shastra?
Oh, yes. Language connects with dance in Bharatnatyam Shastra, of course, because Angik and Vachik have to go together. Dance is movement of limbs, that is called Angik. But your expressions, how you sing, how you bring the words to feelings, and how you correlate those words, those feelings with the movements, the body movements. This is how Natya Shastra looks at the Angik and the Vachik. And first they describe the limb movements from 8th chapter onwards, and they immediately go to the verbal ways of expressing our feelings. So the limb movement as well as the use of language in a particular manner, they have to be put together. And you can see this happening in our contemporary times also. You can see the languages which have a greater rise and fall and intonations, a different kind of intonations. They have a particular type of dance, whereas the other kind of languages will have a different kind of dance movements. Now, if you know, in your generation, you know tango in India. Now, tango can come only from a Spanish society, though it is imitated a lot in US, but it has not evolved in US because of the rhythm in the language. This is very well explained in the context of Natya Shastra also. And Natya Shastra is one of the first texts. You can imagine 2000 years ago, approximately, all these aspects have been dealt with in great details by Bharat in his text Natya Shastra.
Okay, sir, thank you so much for explaining. Now, I would like to ask some questions about your specializations. Like, what drew you to language teaching theories and translation studies?
Yes. Nowadays, translation is a very important issue. And translation happens when two languages interact, two different cultures interact with two different languages. So you have two aspects of it. One, that you learn the language of the other culture with which you are interacting, and you translate also. These two become very important because we are nowadays dealing with a global market. So now you see global, and for anything that is global, we have to make it local also. We have to present it locally. If we give you someone only the global product, it will not work. So how to contextualize it into our context? For this, language studies as well as translation studies provide us certain tools, certain cultural tools. So I deal with that aspect. Anything global, you can take, for example, I'm sure that you eat Maggie, though it's not often recommended, but I'm sure
Yes, sir.
children of your age, you love Maggie. Now, can you believe that Maggie, which came to India initially, they could not find the takers because the taste was European. And then they started localizing the product. And imagine one Maggie masala being sold from Kerala to Assam. Their food habit. See, Keralite food and Assamese food are different. Yet
Yes, sir.
Maggie sells everywhere. So you have to localize it, understanding the taste and understanding the translated behavior of the people and the translated expressions that are to be used. So you have to understand the culture. You have to understand the ways we can present a global product like Maggie to Indian people to make it acceptable for them. Vice versa also, if we take our products to other places, we will have to do the same. It is in this context that we understand language theorization and theorization on language teaching as well as on translation studies. Overall, it is just cultural interaction among cultures, among civilizations, historically as well as in present times.
Thanks for the valuable information, sir. The next question is, how do you apply comparative studies in languages and literature in your work?
And this is how I just now told you that we try to take up different cultural traits, try to compare first them, identify the differences, similarities, how historically they have influenced each other, and what are the influences they have received historically from various sources, how they have grown together. So it is in this context that we first compare, contrast, understand, then we go ahead further in our effort to globalize as well as to localize any text or any product.
I really appreciate your perspective on this. So let's move on to some another questions which are about your awards and achievement. So what was it like winning the Young Scholars Award in 1989?
Oh, yes. As you can see, those days I was young. So there was a challenge actually those days, which we still face, that what is the role of religion in the age of science and technology? And everyone argued, as people argue often even now, that religion has no role in the age of science and technology because we can reason out everything and the religion will have no role. I was the only one among all the panelists who argued just the otherwise. Because religion, the emotional understanding of each other, they remain still relevant. So reason is important, no doubt about it, but we cannot survive as human beings only with reason. There are other aspects of life where a kind of bonding is required, and that's what religion is. Religion literally means bonding. Religare is the word. So that kind of bonding is very much required, and that kind of universal brotherhood is required for which we need the religious brotherhood. We need to understand the world as our own, the entire world as our own, and we all as belonging to the world. That's what we call nowadays Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. So that
Yes, sir.
message is very essential, and it comes from religion. It comes from our cultural understanding of religion. So that's what I had argued. And when they awarded, of course, I was thrilled with the joy because I had a feeling that I'm an odd person arguing something there which nobody accepted. However, it was accepted. It was a great pleasure for me at that moment.
Quite inspiring. So, how did Katha Translators Award impact your translation work?
Oh, yes, Katha Translators Award. I was given this because I translated from a regional language to English, which is not often done. But regional languages are very important. So that gave me another boost to my confidence that we must understand the regional cultures, the regional people. If, like, for example, if you are in UP, let's say if you go to Varanasi, you have to understand the local Bhojpuri language because there is a lot of knowledge in that.
Yes,
Traditionally,
sir.
we think that Hindi or English have the knowledge, but no, local people, the common people who deal with various situations in their life, they have a lot of knowledge. So Katha Translator Award gave me that confidence that I must learn from those who are often not considered so learned. But still, if you talk to them, there is a lot to learn from them. Just the age and their experience have given them that kind of knowledge, which actually be enlightening for us, which we don't learn in universities and schools, but it comes from them by their experience. So this is how Katha Translator Award have impacted my life and my ways of thinking about texts, and thus for my translations also.
I'm learning so much from you, sir. So, I would like to explore some more questions on this topic. So, what's your experience like co editing books on literature and translation?
Well, co-editing is always a great help and a great task because if I work alone, I see things only with my perspective. But when there are different contributors and two, three editors, then we have different perspectives with which we are working. And we learn, we enrich ourselves first a lot. So all these experiences are very, very enriching for me, and they make me understand the world, and they give me the ability to communicate with the world in a much better way.
This is fascinating. So, the next question is, can you tell us about translating Antigone into Hindi with Dr. Sriniket Kumar Mishra?
Yes, yes, this was a great experience definitely for me because directly translating from French to Hindi is a very difficult task. We have no dictionaries, we have no tools that we could use, but we used to sit together, we used to just read each other translation, we used to see how natural our translation is. And that is what took us a lot of time. That you see, it is a text of for a drama. The drama is to be presented, and there our language cannot be a bookish language. It has to be very close to a spoken language, as can be used in a dramatic presentation. So that was the greatest challenge for us. We were translating without any tools, always just trusting our own understanding, an innate understanding of being a native speaker of Hindi. So this is how we translated, and this is how we actually enjoyed all the challenges that we faced during the translation.
Thank you so much, sir,